Into order. Good evening, and welcome to the Village of Royal Palm Beach Council meeting. It is Thursday, April 18th, approximately 6:30. Would everyone please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Diane, please let the record show that all members of council are present.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're going to start this evening with a couple of proclamations.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you.
It's that time of the year. It must be the month of May approaching because it's proclamation month for us. I think we do this every year. But we're starting out with a proclamation. Whereas the Village of Royal Palm Beach is committed to recognizing our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of national disaster. And whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, and others in the construction industry, who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a U.S.-based organization that brings together local, state, and federal officials that are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about this critical role within our communities, and is a chance to celebrate the entire building safety efforts while educating others of the importance of the codes to each and every one of us. And whereas the 2019 theme, No Code, No Confidence, establishes how modern, regularly updated building codes and a strong system of code enforcement ensure that individuals and communities are safe in the buildings where they live, work, and play. Codes that build confidence. As we face disasters in an unprecedented scale, from hurricanes and tornadoes to wildfires and earthquakes, building codes become increasingly important to the safety, health, and well-being of our families and our communities. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Village of Royal Palm, Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, we do hereby proclaim the month of May 2019 as Building Safety Month. Boy, I buried the lead, didn't I? And accordingly, encourage our citizens to join us with their communities to improve building safety and economic investment at home, and to acknowledge the essential service provided by our building safety officials in protecting our lives and property. Signed this 18th day of April 2019. I think we're going to have Rob Hill come up to receive this. There he is. Come on, photo op for him. Please join me.
Okay.
You think it's too long?
I don't know, it was nice, but
Other duties,
that's, you know,
This is all part of making this decision. Okay, we're not done yet. We have another proclamation this evening, and this one is whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. And whereas the support of our understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems, programs, and such as water, sewers, streets and highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection. I just want to pause here. Those of you who have been here through some of the hurricane events we've had, and some of the experiences that other cities have had, you know that making sure you've got capabilities in place for your sewer system and water systems becomes really important during those times of that kind of a disaster. So, whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, I do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th as 2019 as National Public Works Week. Now, the building code folks got a month, but the public works folks get a week. All right, that's just the way that works. In the Village of Royal Palm Beach, and I call upon the citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Signed and sealed this 18th day of April 2019. It's the public works team. When we don't hear anything about them, that's because they're doing their job. It's only when things don't work the way they should that we hear about them. So, who do we have? Is Paul here, or somebody coming to represent Paul? Chris, you're up, Chris. Where is he?
That's why he
There
wants
he
to.
is.
Yes.
On behalf of the Public Works Department, the truth being told, Chris designed the building, and the public works facilities will maintain it. You got it? Very good. Okay, that's it for tonight for proclamations. So we're going to go into the reports. And I'd like to give an update. This morning, the Transportation Planning Agency had its monthly meeting. And I just want to share a couple of highlights that occurred at the meeting this morning. We did a review. One of the things we did a review of the TPA's priority projects for fiscal year 19. It was nothing new to report there other than that the projects that are initially projected appear to still be on track to occur in this fiscal year. We'll hear more about that as they get into the actual build phase. We approved a resolution adopting a Vision Zero action plan. Vision Zero is something that the state has asked us to do, has asked all MPOs to look at, and it's about a goal, a very lofty goal of achieving zero deaths and zero major injuries from auto accidents within our county. Clearly, that's an ambitious goal, and we did discuss the fact that, is this a reality goal? Well, we want to make it a reality, and today we adopted a resolution saying that that is the goal that we're sending back up to the state that we've adopted, that we will push to get to a 0 point. I don't know how long it's going to take us to get there, but we have to start out by committing to that, and that's what we did today, and hopefully we'll move forward with that. Wanted to make a couple other announcements that were made today. April is called Distracting Drivers Awareness Month. So the focus here is for all of us who drive automobiles or bicycles, and especially our young people, our teenagers who are driving, to reinforce the notion that we really need to put away the cell phone when we're in the car. And not, and we all have fallen. I know everybody's fallen into it every now and then. You get a text, and for some reason you got to read it right now, and for some reason you got to respond to it right away. We really don't. And distracted driving has caused the preponderance of accidents, particularly in Palm Beach County. It's a national problem. So the point of this is to bring awareness to that so we're all cognizant of it and maybe get out of that kind of a habit in terms of when we're driving. The other announcement that was made is May 8th is National Bike to School Day. This is an event that is going on across the county. I remember last year we had one of our schools, I think it was H.L. Johnson, kind of hosted it, and we did a walk to the school. So it says it's bike to school, but it's bike or walk. You don't have to have the bike. You can have a walk process to get to school. And once again, it's just to raise awareness about taking into consideration that could be an option for our kids to get to and from school. Remember, during the times when school is in the morning and opening up, and at the end of the day when they let out, we do have Palm Beach County sponsored crossing guards at all of these intersections relating to the schools. Last year was interesting. In making that walk to the school, some things were brought to our attention that we had the village manager look at, just to see, I think it was the light sequencing on one of the major streets and what could be done working with the county to make that even safer than it was. So it was, if nothing else, that was something that was enlightening for us when we did it. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. And lastly, I've been talking about the fact that the TPA is transitioning to a state of independence. That's on track. There was nothing new to report today. They're going through getting approvals from the city of West Palm Beach. Hopefully there are no glitches there and they can stay on schedule. So with that, I think we start with you tonight. Sure.
Good evening, everyone. We had Young at Heart is having their monthly luncheons, so it was the beginning of the month, the first Friday of the month, they have them up there, so it was another great event over there. And I actually also attended the movie night that they had. So the Young at Heart did a movie night and dinner at the Cultural Center, so it was great. They dropped down the 3 big jumbo screens, and we watched the movie out there, and it was really nice. I would like to thank Ernie D. Leonardo, who celebrated his 88th birthday last week, but he's also been a soccer referee for the village for over 25 years. And I'd like to thank the mayor and the council. We presented him with a certificate of appreciation, so thank you for that. We all went through, we had the 2019 strategic planning session, so the staff and council went through all that. So to remind everyone that we have a public citizen summit on the 20th of May, starting at 6:30 at the Cultural Center, so that's open to the public for everyone to come in. I think we all also attended the Children's Oncology Unit open house that they had over at the Children's Hospital at Palms West. So it's very impressive to see a lot of the work that they're doing and then how they change their services based on the needs of the community as well. And then this afternoon, I went to the Business Development Board luncheon. Their topic this month was growing life science industry in Palm Beach County. So they mentioned 5 companies specifically that are moving in between Jupiter and the Gardens and Boca, that seems to be the northern part and southern part of the county. But one of them is also a Scripps spinoff. So that's over 150 jobs brought to the area. And then all of these new jobs the staff need homes to live in. So they just talked about how they go through the surrounding communities as well with that. And that's my report.
Good, thank you.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So I'm glad you brought up about strategic planning, but we'll have another meeting that we want to continue to bring that up, and pretty soon we'll be sending out the invitations. But it is open to the public, that follow-up meeting that we have with the citizens. So, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I want to take a moment of personal privilege and welcome my son Mike and grandson Connor to the council meeting in Royal Palm Beach, all the way down from what usually is the chilly northern Virginia. So welcome, glad to have you here. I attended one of the 2 landscape educational workshops that were conducted yesterday by Rob Hill and our arborist, actually contracted arborist, George Messer. I think I've got his last name correct. I understand that both were well attended. The first one even better attended than the one I was at. There were about 20 residents and contractors there to hear what I thought was a really, really good description of the ordinance, and especially with regard to the preservation aspects of our new landscaping ordinance. A good PowerPoint presentation which covered key features of the new ordinance and, probably most important, the reasoning behind it. And I think that helped with the understanding of the audience, They also described the benefits of maintaining our village's tree canopy and how the ordinance was going to be applied, which this was a very popular take on it, with reason and expert help. So I think it was well done. I think especially during the Q&A session, Rob did a really good job of reaching out to the audience and getting them engaged. And he addressed every one of the questions that I heard very, very effectively. And again, the message was the village is here to help and work with the residents and also with individuals who have an interest from a business point of view in implementing this ordinance. And if you know anything about the ordinance at all, you know that it is somewhat complex. So the idea of reaching out to the community, I think, is really a very, very important thing to do, and I think it was very well done. So for those that might have missed it, I understand that the presentation and the Q&A sessions are going to be online at our website, our village website. So if it's not already online, it will be soon. So again, my compliments to Rob for a really good job.
Okay, good,
That's
thank
my
you.
report.
Jan?
Good evening. Since we're celebrating the month of May before it's time, May is Mosaic Month, the month of
course it is.
shows, arts, ideas, and culture. And the Mosaic Month has 2-for-1 coupons for tons of art organizations within the county. You can download the booklet or coupons at palmbeachculture.com, or you can pick them up in visitor center around the county, and it's open to residents anywhere. So, that's my report.
Great.
I have one thing. As a follow-up to recent conversations with the supervisor of election on holding a referendum for 2 questions to the voters to decide for the village. The first question was on term lengths, and the second question is on whether we have an economic tax abatement as a tool for businesses. In those conversations, it appears that we can have an election on October 8th, 2019. Before that happens, several things have to be put in place. The first thing would be to negotiate an agreement with the supervisor election that would have a lot of the detail of that initiative. That agreement will come to the council for approval, and then once that's approved, we'll move forward with iron out other dates, the absentee ballots, the last date for when the wording on for the people to vote on would be finalized. And then that would be followed by one ordinance with 2 readings for the council to vote on at a public hearing, and then the election tentatively scheduled for October 8th. So that's the process that we will go through. It is a pretty short timeline between now and then to do that. So we will start working on that immediately if that's the council's desire.
All right, so what you're asking is tonight, these are 2 separate distinct items. Let's deal with the first one. That is the question of putting on the ballot a question before the citizens to vote on whether or not we keep our current term length of 2 years or we extend it to a 4-year term length. So I'm going to ask council, we need to vote up or down on that so that we don't want to have that planning process and all the work done with the SOA and downstream that we decided that we didn't want to go forward with it. So we really need to make that formal determination tonight. So with that, anyone else have a question or a comment?
I do have a comment. I'm curious how our residents feel, and I'm wondering if we can pose the question at the summit as a way to gauge their interest.
No, the question is, we'll find out how the residents feel by putting it on a ballot, and then they will vote yes or no. There's not a pre-trial, because if we get 50 people to come to the summit and the majority of those people say they like it, the majority of the village may not. We don't know. So I think we need to either determine it tonight or not, if we're going to do it or not do it. So thanks for your comment, though. Who else? Richard?
And the time is a short timeline. I don't know if we waited until then, the timing would. The supervisor election controls a lot of these times and state law, and I don't know if that waiting for them would give us enough time. I mean, it would be in the process, but
right.
and clearly you get to vote on this at 3 meetings.
Right.
The agreement, and then and then two readings of the ordinance.
Okay.
So we clearly would have some of those after the
Right.
May one.
But the point of the exercise is not to have just go downstream if it's not something that we want to do. So that's what I'm just asking tonight. Richard?
I just, at least on the term lengths, I think the term lengths are fine as they are. I don't see any need to change it, but I was wondering, and I'm sorry, I just thought of the question now, Mr. Manager. When is the last time, if ever, we've had one of these special elections in Royal Palm Beach? I mean, seems to me to be an extraordinary thing. I don't remember one, but I have no idea.
I don't know in the history of the village how many. They are extraordinary. They're not
Yeah.
common to have a special election. But I don't, as long as,
Okay.
yeah, not in the last 10 to 15 years.
Not in the last 20.
Definitely not.
Well, that's what I'm
Definitely not
thinking.
the last 20. I would
I don't
agree.
know if ever.
We could ask
so
our historian.
That was it. That's all my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Jeff?
One of the things that occurs to me is we're talking about something that fits under a heading of a cost-benefit kind of a thing, and while the benefit of not running elections every year does seem to be appealing, the cost of the loss of the frequency of the voters' ability to be able to decide whether or not council members should be retained for another term outweighs the benefit in my mind. So I'm not supportive.
Okay. All right. Celia?
So I'll just weigh in as the last person who hasn't. It was something that was brought up in our strategic planning session last year. Over the last year, I've spent talking to people about it or asking them their opinions. The majority of people that I've spoken to have no preference either way. I think one of the things that they said, fine, 4 years, 2 years, it doesn't matter to them. I mean, we have low voter turnout, so apparently residents seem to be happy. The way I look at this, though, is we're giving the entire village the opportunity to tell us what they want by putting it on the ballot. By us sitting up here making the decision, should we, shouldn't we, it's only 5 opinions versus, or whatever outside stuff we have. So I don't see an issue in putting it on the ballot and let the voters then decide what they want to do. If they tell us, no, we're happy with 2, then it's 2.
I'm glad you said that because that's in fact all we're doing. We're just deciding, give it an option to the voters to make a determination, and they will determine which way they want to go. We don't control that. We only control giving them the option of doing that. We're not making the decision. The voters would be making the decision. So, good, Richard.
And last comment I would make, I kind of agree with what Selena said, but the thing is, this is an extraordinary endeavor, and I mean, there's really, like Selena said, people that I've talked to really, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, or don't have anything either way. So I don't even understand. I would understand it if people were coming to us and there were a number of, or a push to say, hey, we need to vote on this. But without that, I don't see the need to hold a special election and put it on the ballot.
Well, I've had the total opposite experience. For several years, I've experienced voters coming to me and asking me, why are we going through this every year? Why do you guys only have 2-year terms? So I guess you missed those folks. You got the other folks. I don't know. All right. If there are no further comments, then I'll look for a motion.
And let me just clarify before someone makes a motion, this would just be to put it on the ballot,
That's all
or
we-
actually bring it forward to an agenda
Right.
for voting with an ordinance. You all can decide differently at that point if you want, but it's to put it on an agenda.
No. That's not my understanding.
Well, we're not doing a reading of an
I
ordinance
thought the
tonight.
village manager said before we go into the effort of working with the SOE and going downstream and having all the working time done, and then to pull the plug downstream is not a productive way of doing it. So either tonight, we're going to agree to put it on the ballot or not put it on the ballot. Am I incorrect in that, right, in what you were asking?
We wanted the commitment that you wanted us to work on this.
Yeah, but giving
Obviously,
you the commitment to work on and then saying to us, but we could pull a plug downstream.
You can't.
I can't bind you
can't
to-
bind, right.
yeah, I can't bind you to ordinance readings, but it's to whether or not you want staff to put in the work to bring it forward
All
for
right, so
public
what-
hearings.
So what you're asking tonight is, should you go forward with the work, even though we're going to have to officially vote on this as an agenda item?
3 times.
3 times.
3 times, how come 3?
Yeah,
The
tonight.
agreement with the supervisor of elections,
Okay,
and then the ordinance with the 2 readings.
All right. I thought you wanted it up and down, one way or the other. With that modification and clarification, all right? So what we're being asked tonight is, should we have them go forward with the process and then bring it back officially for these 3 vote option? Is there a motion for that? Go ahead.
Just what it is, putting it.
To bring it forward to an agenda.
I make a motion to bring the option of term lengths on as an agenda item for future consideration.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
All right. So Diane, let the record show that the motion to bring, and have the staff move forward to bring it on official agenda items, which I understand are 3, was approved by a vote of 3-2. Okay? Did that answer your question?
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Oh,
Okay.
the tax abatement.
Well, and then the second part of, on that, those discussions with the supervisor election was, in order to put economic tax abatement, we don't have that option to do, to entice or any kind of economic incentives for businesses now. We don't know exactly what that looks like. The Business Development Board, has expressed an interest in the past. They would like to see every community in Palm Beach County having that option. It has to be voted on by the people before we even can consider it. And so the question to council would be, is that something you would also like to include on this ballot initiative?
I guess my question is, and I'll ask Jennifer, this is going to take some time to really develop, as I understand it. So do we really want to try to push this for a special election process, or maybe would it be more appropriate to move it downstream and maybe on a regular election cycle have it done?
So, yeah, and I'll get to a yes or no in just a second.
Okay.
The first step in the process is to ask the voters if they want to even give you the power to grant tax exemptions. But we have not, as staff, had an opportunity to sit down and figure out what that program actually would look like. What businesses are we talking about? And that may be critical information for voters in making their decision whether or not they want to give you that power or not. If you pick a business they don't like, they may vote no. But without knowing that, we wouldn't have that information to give voters ahead of the election. So you absolutely can move this down the track a little bit further if you wanted to do it at an election in 2021 or in March of 2020, or there's a few options. But staff would appreciate the opportunity to review the program a little more, and so we can give some concrete recommendations to you and the voters before they have to vote on it.
Be good.
All right, so what would be your recommendation that we should respond to?
My recommendation is more information is better for voters. So I
Should we
would,
push it to 2021 is what I'm asking.
2021 would be a good time. That would give staff ample opportunity to look at other cities.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Any comments? Go ahead, Richard.
Just a question. It seemed from what the mayor was saying, this would be something we wouldn't have to do a special election for. We can put it on
We
with
could put it on
another
a regular
election
cycle.
possible.
Yeah. If we
Okay.
do it 2021,
That's
we're doing
fine.
our regular election cycle in 2021.
Right.
If no other comments, then I'll look for a motion for that direction.
Motion to direct staff to go forward with
March 2021.
March
Goal.
2021 goal
Economic abatement, what is it?
for tax abatement
Ordinance.
ordinance to go to the voters.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Diane, please let the record show that guidance to staff was to move forward with a planning cycle for the tax abatement ordinance to be on the March ballot in 2021. Okay?
That's all, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Okay. Jennifer?
I have no report. Thank you.
Okay, good. That concludes our reports for this evening. Now, anyone who has a petition to present to the council, now would be the time to do that. Going once, going twice. We have no petitions, so we're moving on from petitions, opening for petitions. Statements from the public on non-agenda items or consent agenda items. I do have a comment card here for a non-agenda item. So would Ms. Diane Queller come up and speak to us?
Hello, everybody. Diane Queller, 123 Sunflower Circle, Royal Palm Beach. I was here a couple months ago and had an issue about the speeding boat traffic in our canals. And I am just delighted to tell you all and report that thanks to Captain Ulrich and his staff, the boats are slowing down. Now, they're not actually going idle speed, but we have definitely made an impact on the boat traffic. And I just want to give a kudos out to Captain. He's been very, very good, and his staff, of getting back to me, and the deputies that are on the boat and stuff kind of, we've had several of our neighbors go down and talk to them when they're out in the water and kind of, relating on things that they've been seeing and things we've seen. So it's definitely getting better. And we just hope we can keep up the Marine Patrol in there a little more often. I know the captain had explained to me there's this Marine Patrol certification to get on these boats is really tough for these guys to pass, or girls. So, that's one of the real obstacles we have, getting more patrols in the boat, in the canals and stuff. But, there is one issue about the boat ramp that I need to speak to the captain personally about, because I didn't want to do it publicly and stuff. But there's a little issue. We've figured something out, that some people are illegally using the boat ramp over there. But other than that, I'm just really so thankful for the input of our sheriff's department. I'm just so thankful they are enforcing our rules here and stuff, because it's making a better, safer canals, and it's not washing away my shoreline. Because with our new Belisara development going right across the canal there in M1, there's 40 lots there on the canal. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of more people living on the canal up there in the northern end. So we just, really thankful, and hopefully we can keep up, and just hope the citizens do, realize that there's about 5 signs there, idle speed, no wake, that they will, mind the rules and stuff. So, and thank you again, Council, for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Well, thank you for giving us that update. We really appreciate that. And the object now is to keep the focus on this and continue have it move in the right direction to we actually get them down to idle speed. I'm glad to hear that at least we made some headway there.
In the right direction.
Thanks for the update. Okay. And the village manager's on that, right? Okay. I do not have any other comment cards for items not on the agenda or items on the consent agenda, but anyone here would like to speak, now would be the time on those items. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment then on non-agenda items and on the consent agenda items. And with that, Diane, give us the consent agenda, please.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Number 1, approval of the minutes of the council regular meeting of April 4th, 2019. 2, adoption of resolution number 1910, a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, adopting a revised schedule of fees and charges, specifically repealing resolution number 1831, providing that this schedule of fees and charges shall be available for inspection at all times at the Village Hall during regular business hours, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thanks, Diane. Any comments from members on council? If there are no comments, I'll look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Diane, please let the record show that the consent agenda was approved 5-0. All right, on our regular agenda this evening, we have 7 items here. They're all interrelated, and they're all second readings.
Yes, sir.
They're,
The last one.
except, well, not item 8, item 1 through 7, right?
1 through 6.
1 through 6?
Yes.
Okay. 1 through 6 interrelated, they're all quasi-judicial. You want to swear everyone in?
Yes,
for
thank you.
6 now?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
perfect. Oh, well, I'll just, if he comes in,
Almost.
just tell him to raise his hand, Ally.
Swearees are not here?
Okay. All right, we're going to do agenda items 1 through 6. I'll swear everyone in at this time. If you're the applicant or staff, if you could raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And now I'll ask council for ex parte disclosures on 1 through 6.
None.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, then I'll start with the regular agenda item R1. It's a public hearing for a second reading and adoption of ordinance number 984 and approval of application number 18-84, An application by Urban Design Kilday Studios. The applicant is seeking a rezoning of 10 tracts of land totaling approximately 11.20 acres from the county's architectural residential estate and the village private recreation and single-family R3 zoning districts to the village's general commercial zoning district, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 2.27 miles west of State Road 7. Bradley,
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. These tracts consist of several large lot, single-family homes. The applicant has indicated in the justification statement that the ultimate goal is to develop the property for roadway purposes, to provide a secondary ingress and egress point for the area to set the State Road 7. In reviewing the proposed rezonings of the parcels to the general commercial zoning district, staff considered compatibility with adjacent land uses, consistency with the village's comprehensive plan, and conformance with the general commercial zoning district standards of section 2689, specifically as it relates to parcel size, parcel width, setbacks, and pervious area. The local planning agency considered this application on February 26, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. Village Council considered this application on March 21st, 2019, and approved by a vote of 5-0, and staff is recommending approval of this application. And I'll turn the floor over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. I do not have any comment cards for agenda item R1, but before I go to the public, does the applicant choose to make any comments? So you're satisfied with the way that it was presented by staff?
I think Bradford's
I guess we'll take that. I do not have any comment cards on agenda item R1, but if anyone would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment on agenda item R1. Take comments from members on council. If there are no comments, I'll look for a motion.
Oh, you need to
I'm
read the
sorry,
ordinance?
You have to read the
Thank you.
title.
This is ordinance number 984, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 10 parcels of land comprising a total of 11.200 plus or minus acres, more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, informally known as the Southern Boulevard Properties, Erica Boulevard, providing that these parcels of real property, which are more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of CG General Commercial District, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for these parcels of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. Thank you.
Okay, there are no comments from council. I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item number 1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that regular agenda item number 1 was approved 5-0. Agenda item R2 is also a public hearing for second reading and adoption of ordinance number 988 and an approval of application number 18-83, an application by Urban Design Kilday Studios. The applicant is seeking a rezoning of 8 tracts of land totaling approximately 31.846 acres from the county's architectural residential estate, and residential transitional, and the village's private recreation zoning districts to the village's general commercial zoning district located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.7 of a mile west of State Road 7.
Great. The applicant has indicated that in their justification statement that the ultimate goal is to develop these properties for commercial uses. Staff used the same evaluation criteria as we used, or as I stated in the first application. The local planning agency considered this application on February 26, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. Village Council considered this application on first reading and voted to approve by a vote of 5-0. Staff is recommending approval of this application on second reading, and I'll turn the floor over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does the applicant choose to make comments? Does not. Okay. I do not have comment cards on agenda item R2, but if anyone would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, closing public comment on agenda item R2. Take comments from council. If there are no comments, read by title.
Thank you. This is ordinance number 988, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 8 parcels of land comprising a total of 31.846 plus or minus acres, more or less. located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, informally known as the Southern Boulevard Properties Pod 6, providing that these parcels of real property, which are more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of CG General Commercial District, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for these parcels of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date and further purposes. Thank you.
Okay. I do not have any public comment cards from the public on agenda item R2. Did I do that already? I did that already.
yeah.
Okay. I still don't have any public comment cards. All right. There are no comments from members of the council. Look for motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item R2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show agenda item R2 was approved 5-0. Agenda and item R3 is a public hearing for the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 986 and approval of application number 18-21, an application by Urban Design Kilday Studios. The applicant is seeking a rezoning of 9 tracts of land totaling approximately 23.95 acres from the county's architectural residential, a residential estate, residential transitional, and the village's general commercial zoning district to the village's multifamily residential zoning district, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.7 of a mile west of State Road 7.
Great, thank you. The applicant has indicated in their justification statement that the ultimate goal is to develop this property for 318 multifamily units. We use the same evaluation criteria. The local planning agency considered this application on February 26, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. And Village Council considered this application on March 21st, 2019. I wanted to make that clear because I think that the agenda item summaries, there was a Scribner's error, and it said 4-1. So I'm going to have a stern talking to that Scribner. Make sure that he is.
It was actually 5-0. Yes.
Okay, we'll go with that.
And staff is recommending approval of this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do not have any public comment cards on agenda item R3. If anyone would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment on agenda item R3. And there are no comments from members of the council. Can we read by title?
This is ordinance number 986, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 9 parcels of land, comprising a total of 23.952 plus or minus acres more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, informally known as the Southern Boulevard Properties Pod 3. Providing that these parcels of real property, which are more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of RM14 Multifamily Residential District, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for these parcels of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date and further purposes. Thank you.
All right, if there are no comments from members on council, I look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item number 3.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R3 was approved 5-0. Agenda item R4 is a public hearing for the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 985 and approval of application number 18-81, an application by Urban Design Kilday Studios. The applicant is seeking a rezoning of 9 tracts of land totaling approximately 29.86 acres from the village's single-family residential zoning designation to the village's multifamily residential designation, residential district. Zoning district located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.7 of a mile west of State Road 7.
Right. The applicant in their justification statement indicated that their ultimate goal is to develop these properties for 401 multifamily dwelling units. We use the same evaluation criteria as the previous applications. The local planning agency considered this application on February 26, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. And Village Council on first reading voted to approve this application by a vote of 4-1, again, straightening the record. And staff is recommending approval of this application on second reading. I'll turn the floor over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, does the applicant want to comment on this? Does not? Okay. You do not have any public comment cards on this agenda item R4, but if anyone would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment for agenda item R4, and we have comment from Selena.
Do you want to read that first? No. I was just going to say, is I was the one that opposed it, and it's for the same reason. It's just representing those that feel the density in that space. So.
Any other comments, member on council? No? Read by title.
This is ordinance number 985, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 9 parcels of land comprising a total of 29.4 plus or minus acres, more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, and formerly known as the Southern Boulevard Properties Pod 2. Providing that this parcel of real property, which is more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of RM14 multifamily residential district, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for this parcel of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no comments from council, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item number 4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R4 was approved 4-1.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item R5 is a public hearing for second reading and adoption of ordinance number 989 and approval of application number 18-16, an application by Urban Design Kilday Studios. The applicant is seeking a rezoning of 7 tracts of land totaling approximately 10.174 acres from the county's agricultural residential district to the village's general commercial zoning district, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7.
All right, thank you. The applicant has indicated that they plan on developing the property as a STEAM charter school.
STEM.
STEM? Is it STEM? STEM, right. SLAM.
We have
What is it,
STEAM with
or
art.
STEM?
STEAM.
What's it? All right,
STEAM has art.
Let the record show STEAM was correct.
what's the difference?
The A is art in STEAM. So
Art,
science,
science,
technology, engineering, art, and math.
Really? Okay,
What a wonderful combination.
wow. I guess that's cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. The local planning agency considered this application on February 26, 2019, recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. Village Council considered this application on first reading on March 21, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. And staff is recommending approval of this application on second reading. I'll turn the floor over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Applicant choose to comment? No?
Uh-oh.
I've kind of got mixed signals, so I'm
Excuse me.
just curious in a public
Excuse me,
format.
can you state your name for the record?
Brian Tuttle.
Okay, Brian.
I've kind of gotten some mixed signals, and right now we're having a few challenges with the charter school people. So my question is, in general, is the commission excited about seeing a charter school, or in general, are they leaving it more up to the developers?
Which are other options?
Well, the other options may be office medical.
So what are you asking? Would we rather see a
Well,
school
I
or
get
office
kind of
medical?
mixed signals about charter schools lately in Palm Beach County, and we're not, we're having a few challenges with the charter school guy. I mean, it's looking like it's a 90%, but I'm just wondering, is there any mixed signals? Does the commission really feel they need a charter school there, given that Royal Palm is over capacity, or are they more, I'm pushing it, so that's why they want it? That's kind of, I'm just wondering.
I don't know who you're getting mixed signals from, but Richard, you want to comment?
One of the things to me, I mean, that was innovative about it was the fact that it was a K through 12. I mean, that to me was what made it innovative and different. The STEAM is great, but I would favor, an educational facility, especially one that's not being offered anywhere. I don't know that there's many, if all, in the county. So that is what I would, I guess, prefer. I mean, if it's not if it's going to fail like the one they had over in Wellington, but that was a whole nother issue, we definitely don't want that, but charter school sounds good to me.
As far as I'm concerned, and we've dealt with charter school issues on the council actually several years ago, and one of the concerns that we always have is what is a charter school bringing that we don't already have in the community? And capacity certainly is a consideration, but so too is a unique configuration, a unique curriculum. K through 12, as Councilman Valentes just said, is unique. There isn't such a thing in the area. But one of the things that makes a huge difference, and we just briefly talked about the Wellington experience, is the quality of the management and the quality of the staff and educators that are involved in that. That oftentimes in charter schools goes back to the managing corporations that are involved. And therein lies concern that I have anyway.
Are you thinking because it's the charter that's the issue? If it were a private school that was K through 12, that wouldn't be the difficulty?
Yeah, if you read the Post, and the school board recently has been suing to stop charters recently, and our operators, Academia, I think they're very highly rated. They've been very, very successful. We've done a lot of research on them, and they do believe they have a STEAM, a charter. And so, I feel a charter school is a good fit there because of the fact it's K through 12. There's 1,100 homes. People can walk to it. They can drop their kids off. There's a park. I mean, there's so many intertwining things. So I just didn't know if there's other commissions that are a lot less excited about charter schools. And I just wanted to and so what I guess I'm hearing is that given that it is STEAM, given it is unique, given that it's good management, you guys still really favor the idea.
Dan, do you want to comment?
Well, I'm having a hard time. I'm thinking about all the different options here. But the charter school that I know you're talking about, I think, and I don't have its anecdotal evidence, is really solid. And it does bring a different element and a different uniqueness, an option for parents. So what we've been talking about, I'm fine with going forward.
Okay.
Charter schools in general are all different. There's no two that are exactly the same. I mean, unless they're under the same management company, right? And so I would hate to say that, all charters or characterize them as all are bad or all are good. So they're really different all the way around. The one that you're referring to, I think, is pretty good.
I guess I want to put a broader context on this. From several years ago when you first started talking about this whole project, the conversation was about, how does the project address the needs of schools, of students? And I think you had some conversations with the school district, and there wasn't any indication that they were going to be willing to specifically address that issue for this development, out of which the conversation shifted to, well, maybe a charter school is a better answer, which is really, when you look at the big picture, charter schools, which are really public schools and the school district schools, the whole concept of charter schools is to fill some of the areas where maybe it's not something that the public school system can do. This, I think, fell into that particular category. That coupled with very excited about a K through 12. And I think the people who will be living in that community will be excited about that too. So I think what you're hearing from this council is we like to see that charter school project move forward.
K through 12.
K through 12.
Yeah.
There was one more uniqueness to this school, if I remember correctly, and that was the sports management aspect of it, that the providers of this charter school, that was their expertise. That's what they provided at other places.
Yeah.
And that, I think the only other place that exists in Palm Beach County is up in Palm Beach Gardens. I'm not positive about that, but that was another uniqueness that was we thought a good thing for the community.
And I hear it. I just wanted to hear it one more time to, and it's kind of, I think sometimes due to the sunshine law, you can't get a general consensus. So
Well,
sometimes it's,
I'm glad you asked the question so we can clarify that for you. Just want to remind you, the school district's a separate agency. We have no control of what they do, but
wait a minute, you told me,
but we do want to, what we're talking about is what's happening in our community. And this is something that we think would be an asset to the community.
remember the other thing is by law, a charter school can't give preference to the people that live closer to the school.
Absolutely.
Just saying.
But that's, as Jan said, that's part of their management process on how they adjudicate that, so. Okay.
The floor is yours, Mayor.
All right, we were getting comments from the applicant. At this time, I have no comment cards from members of the public, but if anyone who would like to comment from the public, now would be the time. On agenda item R5, seeing none, I'm closing public comment on agenda item R5. And are there comments from members on council? No, then leave like that.
Thank you. This is ordinance number 989, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 7 parcels of land comprising a total of 10.174 plus or minus acres more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, and formerly known as the Southern Boulevard Properties Pod 7, providing that these parcels of real property, which are more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of CG General Commercial District, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for these parcels of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date and further purposes. Thank you.
All right, if no comments from members on council, look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item number 5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R5 was approved 5-0. Agenda item R6. It's a public hearing for the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 987, and approval of application number 18-82, an application by Urban Design Kilday Studios. The applicant is seeking a rezoning of 2 tracts of land totaling approximately 4.939 acres from the county's agricultural residential zoning district to the village's single-family residential zoning district, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.7 of a mile west of State Road 7.
Thank you. The applicant indicated in their justification statement that their intent was to develop this property for 106 single-family residential units. The local planning agency considered this application on February 26, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. Village Council considered this application on March 21st, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. Staff is recommending approval of this application on second reading, and I'll turn the floor over to you, Mayor.
Thanks, Bradford. Does the applicant choose to comment? No? Okay, thank you. I do not have any public comment cards on agenda item R6, but if anyone would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment for agenda item R6. Open for comments from members on council. If there are no comments, read by title.
Thank you. This is ordinance number 987, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 2 parcels of land comprising a total of 4.94 plus or minus acres more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, and formerly known as the Southern Boulevard Properties Pod 4, providing that these parcels of real property, which are more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of RS3, Single Family Residential District, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for these parcels of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date and further purposes. Thank you.
All right, if there are no comments from members on council, look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve regular agenda item number 6.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R6 was approved 5-0.
Yes, Mayor.
I think that does it for that list of items. Okay, agenda item R7 is a public hearing for first reading and approval of ordinance number 990, amending Chapter 23, Traffic and Vehicles at Section 23-51. Required minimum number of parking spaces in order to add minimum parking space requirements for private recreational facilities in single-family and multifamily residential communities.
I'll take this one. So as we have been developing single-family and multifamily developments over the past few years, we have been encountering an issue at the staff level where your parking code does not have specific requirements for what we call these community facilities, your community pool, your cabana area, your basketball courts, your racquetball courts, et cetera. And so the way that our code is currently worded, we had to take each component of an amenity center, whether that be your pool or your basketball or your racquetball, and we would have to assign a parking count to it that you would use at like a commercial facility. And so it became kind of overburdensome for the applicant to try to provide enough parking spaces to meet our requirements. If you remember, when Lennar came in on Belisara, they had to have a parking variance for a number of spaces because it was just a kind of an unreasonable requirement, the way that the code is structured. So, and you did grant that parking variance, understanding that there is a disparity there. So this code amendment does try to put a count, a reasonable count, on these amenity facilities that are in your single family or your multifamily developments. We did talk to the village manager. We realized we left out a phrase we meant to put in there. We list tennis ball, handball, pickleball, racquetball, and we should have said or the like because you have basketball and we can't possibly foresee what other games people will invent in the future. So for the we didn't think pickleball was going to be a thing a few years ago. But anyway, the village clerk has provided you an updated ordinance to add that phrase in so we can accommodate other development plans in the future. But I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Any questions, members, council members? No? I don't have any public comment cards on agenda item R7, but if anyone would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment on agenda item R7. Do you have to read by title?
I do. Thank you. This is ordinance number 990, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 323, Traffic and Vehicles of the Code of Ordinances of the Village of Royal Palm Beach at Article 2, Parking at Division 4, Off-Street Parking and Loading Facilities Requirements at Section 23-51, Required Minimum Number of Parking Spaces, in order to add minimum parking space requirements for private recreational facilities in single-family and multifamily residential communities, further providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 23, Traffic and Vehicles shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Okay. If there are no comments from members on council, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item number 7.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R7 was approved 5-0. Okay, we have an addendum item, agenda item R8, which is adoption of resolution number 19-09, a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, accepting the dedication of roadway track R1 and the access easement located at track LBT-1 to the Village of Royal Palm Beach, as shown on the plat of Shops of Village Royal, recorded at plat book number 124, pages 68 to 70 of the public records, and in for Palm Beach County, Florida, further accepting certain required improvements, further providing for maintenance requirements, and providing an effective date, and for other purposes. Please explain, Mr. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the final plat was approved in July of 2017. Prior to the approval of that plat, we entered into a construction agreement for the required public improvements, which required those public improvements to be completed by July of 2019. At that time, it was approximately $6 million in bonded public improvements. This is a depiction of the spine road, and the area that's solid is the bridge. That actually will not be public right-of-way. That's already owned by the South Florida Water Management District, so we're there by permit in that section. The hatched area will be is what you're accepting as public right-of-way. Village code separates the required public improvements into two tiers of improvements. The first tier being the essential improvements, your water, sewer, drainage, access, things to make it safe like street lights. And then obviously for the council, the village engineer, and the planning and zoning director to accept any dedications or reservations. Then there's the tier 2 improvements. And the reason why these are separated is sometimes during construction, not everything happens at once. And that's very much the case here is you'll have portions of the subdivision that will build out earlier than others. So it sometimes makes sense to stagger these improvements so they don't get damaged while the remaining portion of it's under construction. And while you're figuring out where the access points for these other parcels are, and that was kind of the case here. So what this is a list of incomplete Tier 2 improvements. They're still required, and they're still going to be bonded. So it'll be the final lift of asphalt and the permanent striping. There is temporary striping out there. The majority of the reflective pavement markers are out there, and those are the ones that are located on permanent surfaces, won't change. We did allow some portions of the RPMs to be eliminated until that second lift of asphalt went down. The engineer record was comfortable with that, and I was as well. The landscaping, because of the uncertainty of where these access points are going to be, you don't really know what your site triangles are going to be coming out of there, so it made sense to me to hold off on that landscaping. We do have a preliminary plan, and obviously as we work through the site plan processes for these adjacent parcels, that'll be adjusted based on those access points. And as it relates to the landscaping, that will be something that's going to be maintained by the owners association once it is completed. There is on Southern Boulevard, there is a divider strip on the left turn lane. If you were westbound, left turn lane into the site, there was miscommunication on what that material is supposed to be. The developer has agreed to go ahead and take the concrete out and put brick pavers back in that area. They will permit that with DOT and complete that.
So you're saying that the left, if you're heading
west and you're going to make a left into the site, there's a little divider strip
so
that used to have brick pavers there. That they're going to put them back. So
is there a timeline on when that gets done?
It's 2 years with the
I
rest.
thought that was one of the 60-day ones.
Was that one of the 60?
I think it was. It will be taken care of. It's in a construction agreement that they will remedy it.
All right, right now people can't make a left turn?
They can make a U-turn right now.
No, it won't affect the left turn movements into the development whatsoever. It's just the decorative portion of the bridge in the curb, in the island itself. What it was is when we entered into an agreement with DOT 15 years ago for a specific design standard along that roadway, the decorative lights, the brick pavers, and DOT has an agreement with us to require those standards going forward. They missed it in their permitting of this.
Okay.
The developer engineer missed it in his design, and we missed it. So obviously you're seeing the full-scale working model out there, and it's not right, so they've agreed to fix it.
So it's more aesthetic, not functional.
Correct.
Absolutely.
It's 100% aesthetic.
Okay. Very delete. That's okay.
And then this last one is as part of this subdivision that they agreed to get rid of all these buildings that are kind of non-conforming now at this point as part of that subdivision, get rid of the debris and safe that up. They've also agreed to finalize the demolition and debris removal for the adjacent sites within 60 days. That was another 60-day time frame. And then as it relates to the bridge, right now it's functional, and I have some photos of it. There are some permitted portions of it that are decorative, stucco banding, some decorative lights, some decorative railings. The developer wants to change what those decorative elements are. So what we've allowed them to do is go ahead and bond what the original design was, bring it through our process, and provided it's approved, then they would change out to something different, obviously at a comparable cost. The next item is there's an existing overhead power line crossing the roadway. It'll be a bonded item, and they'll remove it. It is high enough where it doesn't impact the safety of the roadway, but obviously as part of our subdivision regs, we don't allow overhead utilities. There's some minor punch list items on those tier 1 items. We wanted to hold off to later on once we get closer to completion to finish those. There's as-built drawings, and then after everything's completed, there's a 1-year maintenance period that our code requires for them. So those are all things that will be held off to the end. This next one I'll let kind of Jennifer touch base on. We've largely worked through these issues, but they're still kind of hanging out there. So.
Sure. Just like with any construction project, there's always disputes with contractors. There is an outstanding dispute with one of the Tier 1 contractors on the Spine Road, which the master developer has been forthcoming with that information for us. So to protect the village, there are 2 things. One, in the amended construction agreement, there's a line item now for this so that the lien does need to be satisfied by the remaining bond money. And then in the event, for some reason, if the bond did not cover it, we have an indemnity agreement from the developer to cover us as the village for any outstanding amounts. So that is the bullet here of outstanding liens for Tier 1 work. The Village of Wellington easement, which is the second bullet point. The Village of Wellington does have water sewer lines that run through this subdivision area. We had a little issue a few weeks ago, but that has been resolved. The Wellington, their water sewer lines are protected now with an appropriate easement that meets our subdivision regulations. And then finally, the third bullet point, there was an existing easement between the related apartment site for access onto the Bridge and Spine Road. Actually, it was more of a crossing point, so they could do construction and other related activities with their site. Related has agreed to release that easement within 10 days from today, because obviously the public bridge and Spine Road will be open. There's no reason for that other easement to be there anymore. So, but I can answer any questions you have on those.
So the net impact is what? The bridge is going to be open to actually be used, and Related will be able to start moving people into their new development here?
There is a process for opening a bridge, which Chris informed me of the other day, and I'll let him handle that part.
Let me continue on.
Okay.
These are kind of...
Story continues.
The story continues,
Okay.
exactly. And one other thing that is somewhat of an issue is as part of our agreement is that they have to maintain insurance for, what are we calling it, Jennifer, for the encroachments in the right-of-way. We do not have that insurance policy yet, so we're not going to allow the roadway to be open until we have an acceptable policy with us. So,
The village has to get a policy?
we're named.
They have a
as additional
policy
insured.
over the Bridge and Spine Road, and we're named as an additional insured. I did have a conversation with an insurance rep for Related today, so hopefully we'll be able to work that out tomorrow. He said he was working on getting us something for us to review.
Okay. All right.
So this next slide is kind of a snapshot of what we're going to be receiving. The bridge is going to be 7 lanes with bike lanes and sidewalks, approximately 160 feet in length, with an approximate value of $2.3 million for the portion that we would be accepting for continuous maintenance. Then the Spine Road is 2 lanes with bike lanes and sidewalks, about a quarter mile, with an approximate value of $360,000. Here's an image that I took this afternoon of the bridge, from the center of the bridge looking south. And here's a picture looking north. And as it relates to the Tier 2 public improvements, we do have a revised construction agreement that will extend the completion of most improvements to April of 2020. And it's approximately $2.4 million in bonded public improvements that will be involved in that. And one other caveat with the opening of the bridge, we did have FDOT, who does it through the Federal Highway Administration, come out and inspect the bridge today. They actually bring divers in, and they do a whole full-blown inspection of the bridge before it's open to the public. The field discussions were that there were no
problems?
significant issues. So as soon as I hear word from that,
Okay.
and we get the insurance policy, the village would be okay with opening. Now, Mr. Tuttle did start some construction on the deck of the bridge today.
At the appropriate time, the applicant does have comments, but he would like, the related has filled out a card, and he'd like to have the related people speak
Yeah, I'm going to
first.
call him up when we take public comment. Okay.
Did you want to talk about the completion of that work that you started today on the bridge?
At the appropriate time, the applicant would like
Okay.
to give his feedback on that.
We're going to be held in suspense here, but thank you. Okay. I guess my question is, it sounds like that these two items, one I that needs to be dotted and one T that needs to be crossed. What does the timeline for that look like?
Well, that's why I was trying to get an answer from Tuttle as it related to, because this is epoxy that's going to go down, and it encompasses the majority of the lanes. So until it properly cures, which I don't know the exact cure time, then
cure
we can't put roadway traffic on it. So that was
Okay.
One of my favorite municipality engineers had an issue with some minor cracking and some banding, and made my life very interesting until I agreed to fix it. So to jump the process, we went out and began fixing it today and yesterday. We're going to epoxy it tomorrow morning. So given that everything works well, the epoxy will be done tomorrow. It'll be cured. It's supposed to cure in like 8 hours, but by Monday morning it'll be cured.
Okay.
And if for some reason these storms that are coming affect us, it will be epoxied Saturday morning or Sunday morning, but it will be done by Monday morning.
Okay, thank you. You want to add something, Ray?
To developers, he only knew about it for about a year, so.
Well, let's just say, let's leave it at this. Wait. Better late than never. That's okay.
we're there.
We just lost our screen.
And I did make it a tier 2 process, so
Okay.
we could have waited and did
Okay.
it with traffic open. He chose to go ahead and be proactive. Appreciate that. Boulevard. That concludes my
That's it?
presentation.
Okay.
So.
Good. You explained it very good. So we're this close. We're almost there. That's good. I have a comment card from the public with Mr. Steve Patterson. Come up, please.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman, Councilman. My name is Steve Patterson. I'm president of Related Development. We are the developers of the Town Southern Apartment Project, so we are actually neighbors to this project. We've become more involved in the project than I think we ever hoped for, and I'm very much looking forward to its early completion. We're very interested in seeing you vote in favor of this resolution because we're in a very difficult spot. This is our only means of access to the property. And we began finishing apartments, turning units in September of last year. We filled up the swimming pool in October of last year. I've been cleaning it every day since October of last year. And we have only one major, it's a beautiful place, and I bought pictures and they were a lot prettier than Chris's. But he wouldn't let me show them because he didn't want me to make him look bad. The biggest problem we have is nobody lives there. It's the most eerie thing I've ever seen in my entire career. Never experienced anything like this ever. I will tell you that staff has been tough. They've been extremely diligent and thorough. And at the end of the day, I would say they've been fair. They've done their job. They made a recommendation, and I'm here to plead with you today that you vote positively for this resolution, follow their lead. And secondly, if you do so, tell all your friends and family that we're open for business. It's a beautiful place, and we got to get it filled up. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Just so you know that the manager and I often have gone over there to drive around and look at how that project's coming out. It looks like it's gonna be really lovely, and we're glad to hear that this is at a point where, like, we're that close in getting this open, so.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you for your comments. I do not have any other comment cards from the public, but if you want to comment on agenda item R8, now would be the time.
All right, as the applicant, this is important. I've never found it so hard to give a municipality $6 million in all my life. But be that as it may be, as he was very political and polite, there's 43 families waiting to move in. 43 families that are going to be citizens. 43 families. And we've got to get the bridge open. And I just want to make here publicly that we all agree on what this schedule is for turning it over, because we've been trying to turn it over, to be blunt, for 60 days. And whatever the reason we haven't been able to do it, we haven't been able to do it. But we're here today. So, you know, it's our understanding that we need to finish the epoxy things, which I said would be done tomorrow. Either I or related, whoever can get the insurance done first, will provide the insurance, because it's a big number and it's weird. The insurance companies are giving us a hard time. They don't really understand it. But once that's done, my understanding is we want to get here on the record that I guess what the first holdup is, the fire department's got to drive their truck over the bridge and prove they can do all that. We'd like to make sure we can do that tomorrow, and that we can get the other inspections so we can get this bridge open by Monday or Tuesday. And I think, given that we've invested $6 million, I've invested $50 million in the deal so far. They've invested $100 million. We've got so much money. We've got to get this bridge open and get these people moving in, or you know, then they're going to start calling everybody. So I'd like to make sure we all understand what the exact schedule is that the fire department can go over the bridge tomorrow, and then they can do the final look on it Monday, and we can open up the turn lights and hopefully open it Monday night or Tuesday morning, assuming we get you that insurance. Is that reasonable?
I'm unclear on your question. Is the question, can we move the cones out of the way, allow the fire department to cross the bridge,
Tomorrow.
and then move the cones back?
Yes.
I have no issue with that, and I wouldn't have had an issue earlier.
No, we've given permission for that over 6 months ago. The fire department, whatever their rules are something that we're not involved with. As far as permission for their truck to drive across, I've talked to their related attorney, and as far as the village is concerned, they've had our permission to cross it. They're apparently have some rule that until it is till they can publicly cross it 24/7 from this point forward, they won't do that. So it's not tomorrow the fire department gets permission. It's Brian finishes those 2 or 3 things, and then the fire department will go. That's the way they've explained it to me. Not us giving the permission to just drive on it and move some cones.
So you're beginning to see that it's got all these moving parts that seem to be much more challenging than so. You know, we have to get you the insurance. We understand that. So we get you the insurance hopefully tomorrow sometime. Then Monday morning we can look at the patchwork, and then we can say the bridge is open. We can take the plastic off the lights and it's open. Can we agree to that schedule?
When everything hits, yes.
I'm waiting on an inspection from FHWA. We don't anticipate there's going to be issues with that, right?
But what if that inspection's 2 weeks?
It's not going to be 2 weeks. They assured me that I would have
It's
it.
been 60 days. What if it is? I mean, you said you were out there, you saw.
All right, let's not get into
Okay,
create a
my
meeting.
point is we can't.
Your point was made. Your point was made. We hear you loud and clear, and we want to make this happen expeditiously as much as you do. So the things that we were controlling, we're controlling. All right. If the fire department has their rules, we can't tell them what to do. All right. In terms of adjudicating what they do, Chris will see as quickly as he can get that report back from the divers, and so we're all pulling the same oars in the same direction on this.
I'm just concerned that
I hear you.
it can roll very easily.
We will do
day
everything,
after day after day.
everything within our power to keep it from rolling. We want to get it open. I'd like to see it open early next week as much as you do.
Thank you.
Okay. You want-
We will do everything we can to
Right.
get it open
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it is.
we're committed to
I mean,
that. We're committed.
Okay.
Was there comments? No? I thought you had a comment.
but it's okay.
You okay?
Yeah.
All right.
And just to be clear, nothing has been moving. We've had consistent comments, and that we've maintained those consistent comments all along. So this idea that we're changing the game as we go along is not true. So,
Selena?
So I'll say this, I have complete faith in Chris, and thank you very much for what you're doing, and the village manager. I understand the frustration because it's not only money out of your pocket, it's residents that need to move in and to expedite it. But I do have full confidence in the village manager and the engineer in the time and making sure that everything's safe and everything's taken care of. So I don't think we're holding up the process. So we'll make it expedite as quickly as possible, as the mayor said, but I understand the frustration that you're feeling right now.
No other comments? All right. All right. Any other comments from members of the public on agenda item R8? If not, I'm closing public comment on agenda item R8. We don't have to read? No. Okay. If there are no comments from members of the council, then I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item R8.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R8 was approved 5-0, and we'll look to get this thing done. Thank you all very much. We have no other business before the council this evening. So with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.